Hi, in this video, we're going to look at how we go about factorizing using the sum and difference of cubes. In order to factorize using the sum and difference of cubes, the expression must contain two cubed terms, but the sign between the terms does not matter. That is why we call this technique the sum or difference of cubes. This means the expression can look like this or like this. To factorize using the sum or difference of cubes, there are very important rules we need to follow. As an example, let's use a cubed minus b cubed. To factorize this expression, we need to split it into two brackets. Let's open our first bracket. This bracket will contain two terms. The first term in the first bracket is the cube root of the first term in the expression. Here we have a cubed, so the cube root is simply a. The second term in the bracket is the cube root of the second term in the expression. Here we have b cubed, so the cube root is simply b. The sign between the terms in the bracket is the same as the sign in the original expression. Here we have a cubed minus b cubed, so our bracket becomes a minus b. Now we can close our first bracket and move on to the second. The second bracket will have three terms. So let's open our second bracket. To fill the second bracket, we need to look at the terms in the first bracket. The first term in the second bracket is the square of the first term in the first bracket. Here our first term is a, so the first term in the second bracket will be a squared. The second term is the product of the terms in the first bracket with the opposite sign. In our first bracket, we have a and negative b. Multiply them together and we get negative ab. Change the sign and we get positive ab. So we can write this in here. Finally, to find the third term, we square the second term in the first bracket. The second term here is negative b, square it, and we get b squared. And now we can close our bracket. Please remember that if you square any value, you will always get a positive answer. This means that the first and third terms in the second bracket will always be positive. It is only the middle term that may be negative. Let's look at some examples. Factorize the following: w cubed minus 8. Let's start by opening our first bracket. The cube root of w cubed is simply w. We have a minus sign, so put a minus sign in here. The cube root of 8 is 2. We can close our first bracket. For our second bracket, let's look at w. We're going to square it, so we say w squared. For our second term, we multiply w and negative 2. We get negative 2w. Change the sign, so we get positive 2w. Finally, for the third term, let's square the second term in the first bracket. Negative 2 squared gives us positive 4. You can say plus 4. And now we can close our bracket. Let's do another one. M cubed plus n cubed. Let's open our first bracket. The cube root of m cubed is simply m. We have a plus sign, so we say plus. The cube root of n cubed is n, and we can close our bracket. Let's open our second bracket. We have an m. Let's square it, and we get m squared. Then we multiply m and n, and we get mn. Change the sign, and we get negative mn. Finally, we square our second term, and we get positive n squared. Let's do another one. 8a cubed plus 27. Now remember that when you cube root, we have to cube root every value in the term. So let's open our first bracket. Here we have 8a cubed. The cube root of 8 is 2. And the cube root of a cubed is a. We have a plus sign, so we put a plus sign over here. The cube root of 27 is 3. We can close our bracket. Open our new bracket. Now we square 2a. 2 squared is 4, and a squared is a squared. To find our second term, let's multiply 2a and 3, and we get 6a. Change the sign, and we get negative 6a. Finally, to get our third term, we square 3, and we get positive 9. Let's do one more example. 8j cubed, k cubed, l cubed minus b cubed. And students look at this and ask, well, what do we do with the cubes? The same thing we have done in all of our previous examples. Let's start with opening our first bracket. The cube root of 8 is 2. The cube root of j cubed is j. The cube root of k cubed is k. And the cube root of l cubed is l. We have a minus sign. Cube root of b cubed is simply b. Close our first bracket. Open our second bracket. To find the first term, we square the first term in the first bracket. 2 squared is 4. Then we have j squared, k squared, l squared. To find the middle term, we multiply 2jkl by b. We have a negative here, so this becomes positive. And we have 2jkl b. Finally, for our third term, we're going to square negative b, and we get positive b squared. You will see more examples like these in our upcoming videos.